Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. Just doing a quick mod to my Magician Lord cart. Going to take off the P1 chip and put a slightly larger, well, one that's twice as large in its place. And with the additional address line, going to connect up an output of this 74HCT161, which I'll show you on this diagram here. Well, it's not diagram, it's the data sheet for this. It's a presetable synchronous 4-bit binary counter. So the idea is, I'll just show you some of the pinouts here. Yeah, you've got a synchronous master reset, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to need to feed anything to that or not. Clock input, I'm probably going to need to stick that to a switch, along with one of the data inputs, the lowest bit, which is pin 3, I guess, so that I'm going to be adding 1 each time I press the button, and it's got a clock input there which should, you know, push it through the logic, hopefully. Pin 7 is CEP, which is count enable inputs, so I guess that perhaps has to be high in order to actually enable you know, the counting to occur, so that should be straightforward. Pin 8 is ground, 9 PE parallel input enable. I'm not going to use that, so I think we could just, it says active low, we might need to put a high to that, I'm not sure. Pin 10, counter enable carry input, I'm not sure, maybe just keep that low. And then pin 14 is going to be the outputs of the flip-flop outputs, so that should go to the upper address line there. And pin 15, terminal count output, not sure, I haven't got a clue. Pin 16 is your VCC, so that's where your +5 goes in. So I'm just going to sort of wire up on a, yeah, sorry it's very yellowed that, look at the way the plastic's aged on that. A bit of breadboard, stick the chip on there. I've got a 5-volt power supply I can just use just to power the thing, and I'll connect an LED up and a switch and just see how I get on with it really, and I'll give you an update in a minute. Right, after a bit of tinkering around, I worked out this diagram. Sorry, excuse the crudity there. I'm not feeling that well today. I only did this late last night, and I only just drawn the diagram now based on my breadboard. So yeah, 5 volts, pin 1, reset into pin 2. Pin 7 plus 5 volts, grounded to pin 8. On the other side, as you can see, you know, the first 2 pins on that side, sorry, excuse, you know, really the chip should end there, plus 5 volt on those bottom 2 pins, and then obviously your VCC is the top pin there, pin 16 or whatever it is anyway, plus 5. And that should be all I need. There's one thing I've not shown on here, is one of these, I forget which one it is now, I need to look back at the pinouts for this. One of these, I think it's 4, I think you skipped the first one, I think it's these 4 here. Are the output address pins, so I think it's going to be this pin here, I think is going to go to A18, I think, from memory. Have a look at this diagram on the other side. Yeah, here we go. So this is the chip I'm going to put on there, 27C800. It's pin compatible with the mask ROM that I've took off here, and as you can see, it's got these additional 2 pins that, you know, the start of the chip, so the way this is going to have to fit on the board, it's going to have to be overlaid, so you can see, excuse, I need to fill some of these wires. I just cleaned up, I've done a really thorough job of cleaning up there and sucked some solder out of those wires, so I'll refill those wires first, and there's a wire there, but as you can see, you know, no damage on the board, looks good as new, so that's good. The old chip came off good as new as well. I used a bit of chip quick actually, just because I didn't want to do chance any damage at all to anything here. Because this is obviously, you know, an old board. I want to keep it as good condition as I can, so I've got the original chip, can always put that back on, and you wouldn't be able to tell after I've done that anyway. So yeah, this needs to go on there in such a way that these first 2 pins sort of sit over this side here, that hang over the edge. And what I'm going to do, because 42 is just not used, I'm going to trim that one off. So as you put the chip down like that, obviously that's that top right hand pin there, may as well just bend it out and snip it off. Not doing anything, and then the A18 pin I'm going to bend out, you know, sort of outwards to make so I can connect a wire to it, and then the 74 HC16, well, it's HCT161. If the EEPROM going to sit there. There are a few places to put it. I was thinking about perhaps gluing it down here or up here. I'll extend the legs, I think, chop off the legs that aren't used, but I'll wait until I've wired it up first and it's working, and then I'll just use a blob of hot melt glue just to hold it down, I think. It should be supported by the few wires that are on there anyway, so it's not going to move around. So first thing I'll do is, like I say, is bend the front two legs out of this, trim one off and solder that on. So I've got the chip back on there now. Solder points not too bad, you can't really tell really. Obviously got this pin protruding here. I'm going to test this at this stage. All I'm going to do is just solder a wire onto there and connect it to the nearest ground point, just to make sure that the game still works, because I've got two, and this is a step I've not shown here. If you want to know how to do this, there's plenty of guides online. It's a case of finding your two images for your game. You know, in this case I think they're both 512 KB. Opening the hex editor, decide which one you want at the lower half of the ROM. So in my case, I think I went for the original, the revision 1, and then revision 2. You just copy the whole of the hex there, of the entire file, and go right to the bottom of the first file. So you're on the very, very, very last. You know, you've gone past 7FFFF, and then just paste, and you should end up with a file that's exactly 1 megabytes. And if you look at the actual right-click and look at the properties of the files, forget the exact size down to the number of bytes, but if you compare the two original ones, the output file you've got that's 1 meg should be exactly the number of bytes of the two other files combined, and then you just burn that onto a 1 meg EEPROM instead of a 512k EEPROM. So like I say, if I stick a wire there to that A18 to ground, in theory it should be using the lower half of this ROM, so I could test that. I could then do the inverse of that and just tie that to 5 volts, test it again, and I should get the upper half. So I might just do that anyway, just to make sure that both halves are okay. I'll check them in the Unibial CRC checker as well. Right, well that's a good sign. It's showing the checksum there, so I'm going to take a screen picture of that checksum actually. All will be explained. I'm just going to go and wire up that pin now to +5 instead of ground. Right, so I'm connected to +5 now, A18. So as you can see, game's working again. This time, look, we get an intro. So there you go. It is actually working. We'll do the checksum. Different HP bar. Looks like we've got more health slots there as well. Very interesting. So CRC check. Now hopefully this will be a different CRC to previous, and it's okay. So there you go. I'll now wire up the 74HCT161. So part way through putting the wires and things on here now, I've put a bit of tape there. I'm going to mount it there and just perhaps use a bit of hot glue just on the corners. It'll stick to the tape, but it's not going to come off. I might even just put a piece of tape over it instead of hot gluing it. I'm not sure, I might do that yet. The only wires to do with this now is I need one wire coming out of the third pin from the top there to here. So I'll do a nice short tight wire there to help hold it so it's not going to move anywhere. And then the other wire is the reset pin, which is going to be one of these pins down here, which is just kind of a diagram. Hang on, where's it gone? It's going to be the second from the bottom left there. So the reset, I printed off this. This is the underneath of the board because there's no reset on the top side. So I'm going to have to look underneath and see if I can trace it to a wire. I mean, if you look at this here, it looks like it doesn't go anywhere. So I might have to just scratch a bit of the track off there, feed a wire, like a really thin mylar wire or something through here, I think through one of these, perhaps through there, and route it that way. So there we go, got the A18 wired up, got the reset wired up too. There was a wire there that went through. Easiest way to work this out is you've got four VCCs, your 5 volt plus 5 volts there, dead in the centre. It's interesting the way they've designed these boards. You've got your grounds on the outside and you've got your 5 volt on the inside, so if you ever put the board around the wrong way, you probably wouldn't damage anything, but yeah, don't quote me. I'm sure there are instances where you would do, depending on the type of board, but it's very clever the way they did that. So yeah, these the 4 plus 5s in the middle, they're usually easy to see because they usually, you know, obviously you can chest continuity, one of the +5s on the chips and stuff, the VCC pin, and then it's the third. There's 2 pins to the left of it, one from the top side of the board here, and it's the third one. So it's the third from the left of the block of 4 as you reset. Bearing in mind, usually it's underneath, so you know obviously I've had to tap the via that goes from that pad underneath there. But I'm going to give this a try now, and we'll see what happens. Right, as you can see, that's working. Let's push start. So that's the version without the intro. Now I'm going to try something here. And you notice there's four blocks in the HP bar thing there, so that's interesting. Now if I do a soft reset, it should be just the same because it's only a soft reboot, it's not a hard reset. The reset line doesn't get triggered as far as I know. So if I yeah, see, again, no introduction and 4 bars on the health. Now I've pressed the reset, and I'll show you this if I can. If you just watch, I press the reset. So press a button, see what happens here. I'm not even sure if that was a different splash screen actually, it looked like it might have been. Now we get the intro, and that's from using the reset button. So there you go, that's worked fine. Just need to just tidy it up a bit, put a bit of heat shrink in a few places, glue the mod down. You can see that, look, I've got 6 bits on the HP thing there now. So that's really sweet. This was unavailable to me, this particular revision, obviously. But the way this cart is now, if you don't use the reset, it'll just work the way it originally did. It's exactly the same. It's got the same checksum. Aside from the fact, you know, there's a few wires and things on there, it's the same. You know, it's obviously it's just had my little intervention there to fit that mod. But moving forward, when I get the adapter for the AES, you know, this will work on the same on the AES via the reset. And that was another reason to stick the reset on there, just to make it the same as the AES really in most respects. I mean, I've not got a headphone jack on it, but in every other respect, apart from the headphone jack and the memory slot, it's pretty much the same. It gives better output actually than my AES, the MVS. At some point I might get around to fit a card slot, I'm not sure. Can do it. I forget the name of the guy. I'll post a link to in the description of this video. You can take a look at his, I think he's done a couple of videos on it actually, prototyped a board, and proved it does work. You can connect a memory slot to some of these old 1-slot systems that don't have that facility. Anyway, I'll reassemble it now. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.